Welcome to the Coffee and Common Sense Podcast with Todd and Linda. Each week, we'll be talking about what's in the news this week and what's happening around the good old Fresno and Clovis area. Hey, this is a no-spin zone too, so we'll be keeping it real. Now your hosts, Todd and Linda Mitchell.
Good morning.
Hey Linda, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Having my second cup of coffee, which I normally don't do, but it's all right.
Me too, but I normally do have a second cup of coffee, sometimes a third cup, so.
Well, it makes it easier to have a second cup of coffee if you add a little bit of Bailey's.
Yeah, but if you're gonna, watch a podcast, it's Coffee with Todd and Linda, I guess we should probably be drinking coffee.
And so today we have a couple of things we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about a post that we did last week from some yard work that we did, right, Todd?
Yeah, so it was interesting what happened last week. It was raining. It was actually Friday came along and Linda said, hey, why did you notice that Donato, who's our yard care guy, Donato didn't come yesterday? And I actually hadn't noticed, that's kind of unlike me. But
yeah. I know, right?
Yeah, usually I notice things like that.
I noticed it before you.
So we called him and he said, hey, it was raining, so I didn't come out. And we're like, okay. So,
but our grass was really long.
Yeah, it's spring and our grass was really, really long and it was bugging the heck out of me. So I dusted off our electric lawnmower and weed eater and gas blower, and Linda and I rolled up our sleeves and we went out there old school style and we did that. And when we got done, it's been a while since we did that, and so
and I was out there planting some alyssum along the side of the fence because I really like the way alyssum grows. It's very quick growing, it's like ground cover, and it looks really pretty and it smells really good.
Yeah, so we grabbed a beer and celebrated, sat out in the grass with our dog Kobe, and enjoyed the nice day. And just kind of nonchalantly, I pulled out my phone, grabbed a picture, and without any thought, because normally we do try to put thought into our social media posts, but this one was just very kind of impromptu. Lo and behold, I guess it resonated with people because we had all kinds of engagement on that picture. And I'll actually tell you what it was. Hold on one second here. We had 553 accounts reached, and out of that, 262 were people that don't even follow us. And you might say, well, maybe it's because of the hashtags, but no, that was only 9 people.
Yeah.
So it was just something that was kind of...
That's kind of cool.
It was cool, but it was interesting to me, like the whole thing. Yard work has always been kind of our thing.
Yeah, I know. I enjoy it.
Yeah, we've always been that couple in that house on the street that was out every weekend, taking care of their yard and what have you. But as we've gotten older or wiser, maybe not wiser, but busier.
I did have a neighbor come by and she said, wow, I think it's really nice that you guys still work in your yard.
Mm-hmm. It made me think of an article that we wrote for our newsletter. We used to do a printed newsletter this was like 5 years ago. And at that point in time, we went through a phase where we were trying to eliminate expenses. Mm-hmm. And so we got rid of our pool guy, we got rid of our yard guy, and we went out and bought new yard equipment. And we started doing this ourselves for a long time. So I kind of we wrote an article for our newsletter. And it kind of made me wonder with the changes in the economy and just...
How many of us will go back to that?
Yeah, I think it may be something... Sorry, Donato. It could be something that... Maybe it sticks. I don't know. It's only time will tell. But, things have definitely slowed down in the economy. And
absolutely.
Tremendously in real estate in general. And we've noticed it.
Yeah. So anyway, last week I went to a class on Thursday night they were having at the range, and it was a class put on by...
What is the range, Linda, for those that don't know?
It's the pistol range, so that you can buy a gun, buy ammo, or pepper spray, things like that, self-protection. But anyway, it was put on by USCCA, and so I went out there with a couple of girlfriends, and they were just sharing with us tips on how to be aware of what's going on around you. So many times we're so distracted with our purses, our phones, our kids, and that's who these criminals look for, is people, and especially women. Women are the largest percentage of targets are women.
Did he talk about these zones?
Yes, he did.
When people walk out into the parking lot?
that he did talk about those zones and talked about making sure that you're aware of what's going on and not to get into that zone where you're like easily identifiable as a target. And if you notice that somebody is following you, it talked about what to do. So if you notice somebody's following you, to maybe turn around or go towards a lit area, or if you see somebody out from a distance, yell their name, "Hey Mary, I'm over here," whether you know them or not, because then they'll get scared that you're with somebody else. So they did talk about 3 crimes that are on the rise, and Fresno County is starting to see these crimes here locally. Right now, they're hitting pretty frequently in like the Los Angeles, San Francisco area. But there's 3 new ones. It's jugging, sliding, and glue and tap. So interesting names they give these. But anyway, jugging, quick description. Jugging is when you get followed out of the bank. And
the bank specifically?
The bank. You followed out of the bank. They know you've withdrawn cash because they typically work in teams. There's somebody inside that can see who's withdrawing a large amount of cash. And they follow you out to the parking lot. And basically, they tackle you down, take your money, and there's a getaway car running, waiting, and they're gone.
Is this happening a lot right now?
It's happening a lot throughout the state, and Fresno is starting to see these crimes here locally. The second one is glue and tap. Glue and tap is where the criminals go and they pour glue in the ATM so you can't slide your card in. And there's a friendly, wonderful man behind you or in line saying, "Oh yeah, well if you tap your card instead, you can still get your money out." And they're like, "Oh, thank you so much. You're so kind and so nice." And so you go in, they show you how to tap your card to do everything. You get your money and you walk off. And then the next morning you notice that you've had lots of withdrawals. What you need to know is if you're doing that, and typically it's for people that don't normally tap, so they don't know what they're supposed to do. But if you're doing the tap at the ATM, at the end you have to make sure you close the window down by tapping no more transactions. And apparently some people are just not paying attention to that, and they're leaving it open so anybody can walk up and keep withdrawing from your account, which is what's happening. And the third one is sliding. This one is happening more at gas stations than anything else. And so what happens is you get out of your car, you've got your debit card and whatever, your Costco card, or if you're going there, a regular gas station, and you're out of your car and you're sliding to get your pump ready to go. Somebody comes around through your car, either through the passenger or the other side. If they come in through the driver's side, they just jump in your car, because most of us leave our keys in there, right? And they take off with your car, or they just come in, grab your purse and your wallet that's sitting on the car because you just took your card out, you didn't put it away, and they just grab it and go. So those 3 crimes right now are starting to happen more and more in Fresno area. So beware, whether you're a man or a woman, they're happening. Women are the easy target, so pay attention and make sure you're aware of what's going on.
So what did you learn in this class specifically? And what is USCCA, for those that don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
USCCA is an insurance. I think it's an insurance company.
I think it stands for United States Concealed Carry Association. It's an insurance company. For those of you that have concealed carry permits, when I had gone through one of my CCA or CCW classes, the instructor held up a bullet. He gave it to a woman and he said, "How much do you think this bullet is worth?" And she looks at it and she's like, "I don't know, $1.25. And he's like, "Why don't you try $125,000 bare minimum, because that's what it's going to cost if you are so unlucky to find yourself in a position where you have to actually pull your firearm and use it." Between the civil litigation and all the lawsuits that are going to hit you, approximately that's what that incident is going to cost you.
Well, and this here, these booklets they gave out, and I've heard this before because I did have a concealed carry permit, but it was very interesting that the first thing they tell you, and they tell you this in all the classes, is that you need to expect that you will be detained and possibly arrested.
Yeah.
Whether it was your fault or not, whether they broke into your house and they're in your house and you're struggling, and they were clearly at fault, you will get detained, and it's possible you're going to get arrested. And for me, that was kind of a shocker, because I'm thinking, well, I'm in my home, they broke into my house. Doesn't matter. You're going to get detained, and they're going to take your statement, and if you don't get arrested and charged, it's possible that the victim or their family is going to come after you.
Yeah,
So,
it kind of
important
seems like
thing.
in this crazy state that we live in nowadays, all of the rights go to the criminal and not the victim. I mean, heaven forbid, because when I went through the last CCW class, they went through specific scenarios like that.
Well-
and some guy breaks into your house, you shoot him. It's your word against, his or if he's, dead.
Now it's like you have to prove that you were innocent in the whole thing and you were
Well,
only defending yourself.
that's-
Whereas before,
yes.
just the fact that they broke into your house was proof.
Because the prosecution comes against you and they say, well, this man was just trying to feed his kids. His kids were hungry. He had no other choice but to break into your house and steal your stuff, and you had extra, and it was no big deal, and you should never have engaged, with a firearm.
And speaking of how you mentioned, the rights are mostly now, they don't really go with the victim. I believe that's kind of the same with our housing, with landlords and tenants, which brings us to our last topic, right?
Sure.
I mean, we're real estate brokers, and so we'd like to talk a little bit about what's going on. And there is a new program that the state of California just made available through the CalHFA. It was released from the state on the 27th of this month, which was just a couple of days ago. It is not available yet to borrowers because
They're working out all the details.
this program has its own loan application process, so it's not like an FHA or a conventional. They have their own loan application process, and the lenders have to work through all the specifics of what that application is going to look like and what the steps are that they need to take to qualify somebody for this program.
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything on the program?
Well, I mean, the last time that we saw any level of, financial assistance and programs like this was, I want to say 2015, 2016. It's been a long time. And the thing is, this is free money for those that qualify. It's up to 20% down payment. And literally, I mean, if you're trying to get into a home, this could definitely be something that could be very beneficial for you.
So here's where this program is going to be good for buyers. If you have a great job and you've done a great job with your credit score, but you just can't seem to save money, this program will give you up to 20%. Now that 20% can be used by you, the borrower, for your down payment, to pay down your points on your interest rate. It can be used for your closing costs. It can be used for any of those things. Now, if you decide to sell in 5 years, that money is free money because it's going to help first-time buyers get into a home.
Getting into
right?
the house, I should say.
It's going to help them get into the house. But if you decide to sell in 5 years, at that time, whatever they gave you, you're going to have to give them back. They put it back into the program to help the next buyer. And then you also need to return 20% of your equity in your home that you've acquired in those 5 years. 20% of that equity goes back into the program to help the next buyer as well.
So on top of the money that you already owe them, let's say you buy a house and it's $400,000 and 20% of that is roughly 80 grand. So in 5 years, let's say you go to sell the house and it's worth 600,000, you got to pay them back 160,000.
You have to pay. Well, let me give you this example. So, because this is the one that I've seen used very frequently. You buy a home for $300,000. They give you $20,000 for your down payment. Okay, so in 5 years, you decide you want to sell. You owe $500. Your equity, you're now at $500. You owe on your loan. You still owe on that loan, let's say $180. Okay. Well, I wouldn't go down that much, but let's just say that. Well, so now between that, what your balance is on your loan and what you can sell it for, that $500, that different, you have to pay them back their $20, and then the difference in that equity, 20% of that equity has to go back to them plus the 20.
Oh, I see.
So the program,
20% of whatever the equity is.
Yes. So it won't necessarily work for everyone. Some people may want to stay with FHA, but it's definitely going to work for a first-time buyer that is struggling to save enough for the down payment. And that's really what this is targeted for. People that have the great credit and they just, something happens, and they just can't save enough for that down payment. That's what this is good for.
Okay. Well, I mean, the program is that, like we said earlier, the I guess the details are being ironed out.
Yes.
If it's something that may interest you, reach out to us, and we'll get in touch with a lender and kind of work those details out as they're being developed.
Right. Sounds good. Because right now they're just putting everybody's name on a list until they have the loan application process worked out. Okay?
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today on Coffee with Todd and Linda. And that's not the full name. But...
We appreciate your time today.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Coffee and Common Sense Podcast with Todd and Linda. We hope you had a good time and look forward to seeing you all next week.